Hello and welcome to the weather update. And I know I didn't get a chance to do it yesterday. I do apologize, but had to do another video and it's just too much for me to do it. But anyway, kind of a murky day and kind of similar to yesterday. A lot of clouds, and then later on in the day we had some breaks of blue sky in the evening. And it was fairly, it's been fairly comfortable. The humidity hasn't been too bad, and with the lack of sun, temperatures really haven't gotten all that warm. This is the current satellite, and you can see the breaks in the clouds that we're getting. So during the day, it seems it's a little more overcast, and then later at night, we have more breaks in the clouds, it seems. And we're going to look now at a satellite image, and yes, you can see right here, this is the high-resolution satellite. There it is. That is Fred right there. And then we have Henri over here, and then Grace over here. So we have three named systems right now that we're dealing with here. Three named systems that we're dealing with here in the tropics. So it's quite active, and I want to look at a couple more loops here of, let's go to the southeast so we can show you, oh, it's long gone. You know, maybe we'll do a CONUS loop. Don't we have an eastern U.S. loop? Should be an eastern U.S. loop. All right, well, we'll just use the Atlantic Coast loop, I guess. This is fine, so you can get a chance. Yeah, this is good. So this gets to show you what's going on here. You can see this is the infrared, so it's not quite as dramatic. We'll get to these storms in a moment. Let's first talk about the weather that we have here. And there are actually some chances of severe weather because of the remnants of Fred coming this way. So Farmingdale, 74, south wind at 10. See, the dew point is up to 67. I'm just going to go over the observations this way. We can pull up some of the historical and see what the highs were today on Long Island. It would be nice if these would actually work. Here we go. All right, so hit 81. Not that hot. You can see plenty of clouds, but later on in the day, the skies broke up a little bit. Dew point starting to come up a little bit. At night, this morning, the low at Farmingdale was only 72. However, if we were... Actually, I want to move that back to the other night. So the night before, because we didn't do the weather update on the night before, the low got down to 65. So, yeah, it was a cool night, but not as cool last night. I'm going to look at West Hampton as well and see so 71, dew point 64. It hit 80 there, and look at that. See how much cooler it was in West Hampton this morning, 60 compared to Farmingdale. So they got some really good radiational cooling. And the night before, it dropped to 57. So they got some good radiational cooling out there as well. But generally, it hasn't really been that warm, again, because the cloud cover temperature is fairly uniform in the low 80s everywhere because of the cloud cover. And if we look at the current radar, you'll see that there are some showers that are making their way into parts of Pennsylvania, upstate New York. And then this is the remnants of Fred here. And there's a lot of thunderstorm activity with this line here. You can see it's like a feeder band almost of moisture coming in. And that is something that we'll have to watch for. However, it looks like most of that is going to wind up being off to the west. At least that's what I think. If we look at the weather story, you'll see here they have a map here of the impacts from Fred. And you can see it's the severe weather impacts, the flooding and possible tornado risk is mostly all to the west, well west of our area. So that's what it looks like right now, that is where that threat is going to be. But let's get to the storms that we are currently dealing with. All right, here are the remnants of Fred. It's just a tropical depression now, all right? But it did make landfall as a 65-mile-an-hour tropical storm. It did strengthen prior to landfall, as we were expecting. Then we have Grace, which unfortunately impacted Haiti, which has suffered a very bad earthquake, and now they're dealing with this. And it's a real tragedy there because they have over 1,000 people that have died as a result of these natural disasters that have hit the area. And then we have Henri, Tropical Storm Henri, now 65 mile an hour. Wow, this could become a hurricane, Tropical Storm Henri. So let's talk about the two that are out there right now. All right, so let's start with Grace. And Grace is the latest public advisory on Tropical Storm Grace, as of 11 p.m. tonight, its location 18.4 north, 79.2 west, about 145 miles east-southeast of Grand Cayman, and about 60 miles west of Nedril in Jamaica. Maximum sustained wind 60 miles an hour, moving west at 14 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure 1,000 millibars or 29.53 inches. And this is going to enter the Gulf. And when it enters the Gulf, it probably will strengthen. Now let's go to this. We'll go look at Grace on our satellite here, and this is the enhanced. And you can see once this thing gets out over the water, it's gonna. And you can see this is the island, I believe, of Haiti right here. It's gonna be dealing with some really. They've been dealing with a lot of flooding, terrible disaster. They had this terrible earthquake, and then followed by a tropical storm. Absolutely terrible. And you can see here that you can see all that convection that's continuing to pop up. And once it gets out away from these land masses, it's probably going to strengthen. It probably is going to strengthen. And actually, I would like to look at that loop in visible if we could. But it's this is the last visible, which you could sort of see a little bit of. Let me. I don't know. I don't know if I can increase the time, but you can see that convection is definitely firing, and that's an indication of a strengthening storm. All right, so let's go look at the warning cone for Grace, and you can see here that it's not going to affect the United States, but it is going to affect part of Cuba. All right, tropical storm warnings remain in effect. Actually, this is Jamaica, not Haiti. My mistake. Haiti is over here. I should know that. I apologize. But Jamaica is getting hit hard now by these storms. But now, tropical storm warnings are also in effect for part of Cuba, and then tropical storm watches for the western part of the Cuba. But this thing's really got its eyes set right now on the Yucatan Peninsula of Mexico, and it's going to become a hurricane before it gets there. You can see they have it becoming a hurricane before it gets there, and it's going to cross over the Yucatan, and then it's going to reemerge over the Gulf and become it'll probably weaken to a tropical storm. Then it's going to become a hurricane again before it moves. It's going to move due west, so it's not going to come up. It's going to move due west. And fortunately, it will not affect the United States, but it will be affecting these other countries, and it could be quite a mess over there. And if we look at the models here, you see most of them agree on this track. Pretty good agreement here. And if we look at the intensity guidance, you can see they all have this thing strengthening to at least a Category 1. Some of them maybe even as high as Category 2 or even 3. And again, once it gets out over those warm waters, it's anyone's bet. Now let's go to the next one. We've got Henri. Here's Henri. Let's click on this. All right, waiting for that to load. Well, let me load on here. So this is Henri here on the infrared satellite. Let's take a look at this. So you get a chance to what it looks like on the infrared satellite here, and you can see it's definitely pretty well defined. And you can see the convection firing up quite a bit. It's over warm water. Conditions are good for this thing to strengthen, I think. Let's see. So I want the public advisory on Henri. So Henri is moving west-southwestward with 65-mile-an-hour winds at 11 p.m. Location 30.0 north, 65.1 west, about 160 miles south of Bermuda. Maximum sustained wind 65 miles an hour, moving west-southwest at 8 miles an hour. Minimum central pressure 998 millibars or 29.47 inches. So tropical storm watch is in effect for Bermuda right now. And again, this storm, the extent of the winds is up to 70 miles. It's not a huge storm, but it is a storm that will have to be watched. This is the cone right now that they have, and you see here that it's going to make that recurve, but this thing is going to become a hurricane. And well, most likely we'll miss Bermuda. It's just going to be a storm out in the sea. It's close enough that it could kick up the waves a little bit in our area, and it will have an effect on at least our oceans, because this is going to become a massive hurricane, and that is going to cause stronger than normal surf. And we're gonna have to look at that, and we look at some of the models with this storm. But this again is Henri here, and again I would like to see a visible of this. So let's see if we can do that. Yeah, it's unfortunately getting dark on this loop, so you can't really see. You can sort of see, was it right there? And if we go right there, you can see the convection taking place. So no well-defined eye, but this thing, you look at that. You can see that firing up right there. So there's some real good convection going on with that storm right there. And that's very promising. This thing's definitely going to become a hurricane, and it could become a strong one at that. So we're going to look at some of the models now on Henri, and here are the models. And look at that. There's one model that actually takes it right into our area. So this still bears watching. While all the models keep this thing offshore, it's close enough that we have to watch it. And you can see that one model there taking it right over the east end of Long Island there. Most of them, though, do recurve it out. But when we look at the intensity guidance, you can see here, it's probably definitely probably become a hurricane, if not a Cat 2 or Cat 3. Conditions are promising for this storm to intensify for sure. So now let's go over to the models here, and now we got all this activity going on, and we've got to watch the remnants of Fred, we've got to watch Henri, and we've got to watch Grace. So we're going to first start with the CONUS. Actually, we're going to first start with a regional. Let me go to the North American view here, so you get a regional view of the winds and the upper air. So you can see here that you've got these trade winds here, the easterly trade winds that are going to carry Grace westward. And you have a high pressure ridge over here over Florida now, so that's not gonna allow Grace to come up. It's gonna keep heading west. And Fred, you can see the remnants of Fred going off to the west, and you can see that southeast ridge right there. You're looking at this upper area, you can sort of see it, and the jet stream. There's enough of a push here. See that little weak trough right there in the jet stream, very weak, to pick up Henri. That is awfully close. Is that Henri? That looks like Henri right there. So it does seem to pick up Henri and take it quite close to us. This is going to have to be watched. This is the GFS. So that is taking it quite close to us, and we are going to have to watch that for sure. You can see that the jet stream remains a mess. All right. So now let's take a closer look, and we'll go to the surface here. And we'll show you what's going to happen here at the surface. So here are the remnants of Fred. Most of them are going off to the west. All right, here's Henri. All right, so we head through the week, and you can see you got this Bermuda High kind of thing here. The upper ridge makes it favorable for both of these storms to strengthen. And then this storm is going to take a turn, and you can see it almost looks like it's aiming right for the east coast. But then it makes a right turn and heads out to sea. But look at how close it comes on this GFS run. And that is quite close right there. You see that, so that's why it has to be watched. Look at that. I mean, it could impact the Cape right there. That is a close call. And then here is, if you look at the very bottom of the screen, that is Grace. All right. So we've got a lot to watch here. Now let's go to the HRRR now, and we'll first start with the remnants of Fred, looking at the 0Z run. All right. And you'll see here the remnants of Fred are going to mainly head well to our west over Pennsylvania. And we're not really going to see much precipitation tomorrow from it, maybe a couple of scattered showers. As we get later into Thursday night is when we could see some of the old feeder band remnants, possibly Wednesday night and really early Thursday morning. We could see that. But most of that activity just seems to go right to the north of us. This is the HRRR. All right. And you can see it clearly does take that to the north of us. We're going to also look at the NAM as well. This is the 0Z NAM run that we have. That's part of the reason I'm doing this weather update later, so I can look at both of these. And the NAM is a little more aggressive with the precipitation, but again, mostly taking it well to the north, as you see there. All right. If we look at the total accumulated precip that we are going to see from this, you can see that it's mostly all over central Pennsylvania into upstate New York. And those areas could see as much as 2 to 3 and maybe some isolated amounts of over 4 inches perhaps. That's according to the NAM. And then if we look at the HRRR at 0Z, move this to the end here, and you can see a similar type of pattern, though not quite as much as the NAM. You'd see most areas to our north and the west, and I mean northern New Jersey, extreme northwest New Jersey, Sussex County, and then you'd have to head north upstate into Ulster County and up into the capital region to see those 1 inch and then possibly isolated areas of over 2 and maybe even 3 inches of rain. But for most of us, you can see we're not really going to be getting much rain from this. So let's go look and now shift gears, and we're going to look at the humidity, obviously, because this is going to bring a big increase in the humidity. We're going to get that tropical moisture in here. Today's dew points were in the 60s. Wasn't too bad. Tomorrow, we get those dew points up into the 70s, around the 70-degree mark. Southeast wind keeps the temperatures from getting too warm again. Thursday, you can see the winds kind of shift as this thing passes later on, and this might make it a little warmer, perhaps, with that westerly flow. If it shifts the winds to the west there as the remnants of Fred moves to our north, right there on the HRRR. All right, temperatures. As we look at temperatures tomorrow, similar to today, we're going to have temperatures probably only in the upper 70s to around 80 with that onshore flow. A little hotter on Thursday, and again, if the winds go west, we're going to see more mid-80s, I think, possibly. And, it might even clear the sky out a little bit, perhaps. Let's go to the GFS now. Here's the GFS, and you'll see tomorrow, again, it's not going to be that warm. And the Thursday, you can see a little warmer, and Jersey could be 90. And then Friday, we'll start feeling some more heat. And then you can sort of see the remnants there. Well, not the remnants, but you can sort of see Henri off to the east there. That could cause major issues. And we'll have to look at the wind field on that with the GFS as well. Let's take a closer look on the GFS at this. So we don't have, because this is a long-range situation with Henri, so we don't really have the short-range models. But we can look at the GFS and look at how close that takes it to the Cape. So this is a close call type of storm, and we may see some showers from it, maybe bring some moisture into our area. However, usually the west side of the storm is the dry side, so I don't know why maybe the models is underestimating that. It might wind up being drier. You can see we're going to have to watch this thing, and we are certainly going to have to watch this. And the humidity isn't going anywhere, so we look at the humidity. And you can see here, this kind of shows the wind field as the remnants of Fred depart. It gets rid of our onshore flow, shifts things to the west on Friday, which means Friday is going to feel a lot hotter. And we may be dealing with some heat on Friday. And then the winds go back east again ahead of the center east, and then northeast ahead of the center, and then north for Sunday. And then it pulls away. But this is something that we are going to have to watch. But you can see the humidity isn't going anywhere. No dry air around at all right? So that is a factor as well. And let's go to the wind now. We'll get the wind here. We'll see how this does with the wind. And you can see this is definitely a storm that is going to strengthen. It's got that warm water to work with, and you can see we're not going to be dealing with too much wind on Long Island, but the Cape, this track would definitely give the Cape and Nantucket possibly some tropical storm and maybe even some hurricane conditions, probably just offshore. And that's close enough to stir up the water. So that is definitely something that we're going to have to watch for sure. And again, I know it's way out there. I know. We'll go look at the skies now. Obviously, we're going to have plenty of clouds. Though, again, you're going to have those breaks. You're going to have those breaks in the clouds. But as far as a clear sky goes, I don't know when that's going to happen. I really don't know. Maybe Monday or Tuesday. It looks like Tuesday. Next Tuesday, maybe we can clear it out. Maybe Henri will clear the sky out enough. We don't know. It's just like there's so many variables that far out. I can look at the NAM as well with sky cover, and you can see here's Friday. And you can see there's definitely going to be more sunshine on Friday. Thursday, probably more clouds. Tomorrow we'll have probably plenty of clouds. Though again, we have a tendency to have those breaks in the late evening. We might see that again. And then the showers. I mean, I just see most of the rain staying to the west of us. I really do right now. So let me go to the some models here. We're going to look at, I guess would be windy.com. Let's go ahead and look at that one. And we will follow these storms here. as they actually let's follow these storms. So this is the European model, and you can see Henri right here. Here's Henri, and here's Grace. All right. So we move this along, and this is based on the European model now, and we'll move this along to be able to track these storms. And this is the European model here, and European model is much flatter with Henri, and I can't even find it here. So it's much flatter. So European has a totally different look. The Euro's track record hasn't been all that great. So you can compare this to the GFS. The GFS is a lot more intense with both storms. You can clearly see that with both storms. It's quite intense. All right. As far as Grace goes, this is Grace on the GFS here. And if we go to the wind gusts here, you'll see here that we've got it will become a hurricane before it impacts the Yucatan, probably sometime Thursday. And then it's going to weaken, and then once it gets back out over the Gulf again, it's going to become a hurricane again before it makes land pack. Probably won't regain all its strength, but that Gulf is warm. And it could warm up. It could get going pretty quick. And then there's Henri. So here's Henri, and again we're looking at the GFS. As we go into tomorrow, 4 o'clock, you can see it continues to move west. I mean, you better hope that thing gets picked up and tossed out, because it's going to strengthen. It's in a good spot. And you can see most of the winds are on the right side of it. As we take it up, there it is. And that's its closest position. Some areas on the east end could see wind gusts up. It has it being fairly compact, but the areas that are affected, like the Cape, you could see wind gusts approaching 50 miles an hour, and out in the middle of the storm. It has it as a tropical storm, not as a hurricane. This is the GFS, by the way. The Euro, it doesn't have anything here. It just dissipates it. And I'm not buying that one bit. We can use this too. It's just not looking at wind gusts here. And you can see here some of the winds around this center. And you could see this actually shows the storm up better. Looking at wind here. And you can see how close it comes. You can see how close Henri comes to us. This has to be watched for the Sunday time period. Now, as far as getting back to Grace, again, this is what Grace looks like when it's going to impact the Yucatan. And so these are two storms, and it looks like it has it really pick up a lot of strength once the Yucatan's fairly flat, so it's not very mountainous, I don't think. So once it gets back out of the Gulf again, it's going to be able to reorganize pretty quickly. So we're going to have to watch these two storms for sure. And we're just going to have to watch them. And if we look at the Earth site, we're going to go ahead and look at our sea surface temperatures. And I'm also going to go back to windy because I want to look at the surf too as well. If we go to our sea surface temperatures here, sea surface temperature anomalies, SST anomaly. Oh yeah, we're above normal. So you have above normal water. This is saying about almost 5 degrees above normal here. If we pull this out here, we'll be able to see. I put that over there, 4.5 degrees above normal. Some of these patches, even 6.1 degrees Fahrenheit above normal. That's the anomaly. And then if I go to sea surface temperature, you can see we have water temperatures that are above 80. Not that far away, not that far offshore at all. And this is all above 80 right here in this area. So definitely good support for a hurricane, a strengthening hurricane. So Henri could be Henri. We are going to have to watch Henri. That's the bottom line. That is the bottom line. So let me go back to windy.com, and we're going to look at one last parameter, which is the waves from Henri. At least this is what the European doesn't have much here, obviously, because the European. I don't know if GFS offers yet. GFS offers a wave model, so you can see how it's going to kick the surf up. Mainly to our east, so, but again, parts of the Cape. I mean, look at some of these waves here in the storm. You're approaching 20 feet. Parts of the Cape Cod, Nantucket, they are going to have to watch this one even more closely than we are, for sure. All right, so let me go one last thing. The thunderstorm threat on the HRRR for tomorrow, Wednesday, in the afternoon. You can see, I think most of that stays off to the west and the south. So again, chances are we're not really going to see much convection. It stays to the west. And go here, you'll see here, it's all staying to the west here and to the south. Let's go to Thursday morning now. We start seeing some of that Cape get into our area. So the best chance for thunderstorms from Fred is going to be in that early morning Thursday hour that we're going to have to watch and see because it is going to be bringing some really tropical moisture into the area. It's going to be, we got the high dew points well into the 70s here. So where our dew points are going to peak. We have those mid-70s dew points, and it's also going to be a little windy too. We're going to see, you're going to have like a little bit of a low-level jet, so 20 to 30-mile-an-hour gusts, and that's going to bring in the moisture. But of course, with over the ocean, it should moderate things, but maybe not. We have such warm water temperatures, so it's not really going to do that much, and that we'll have to watch that and see. If you look at the precipitation guess, you can see it still has most of the action up here. Because again, it's going to be inland, especially once this air is forced to rise with the increasing elevation that you're going to see. So Albany, interior New England is going to see a lot of the worst effects from Fred as far as how Fred is going to affect the Northeast. But we'll keep an eye on all these storms for you. But the one to watch, I think, is definitely going to be Henri. So that is going to be it for this video. Thanks for watching and have a good night.